Hello, today is going to be my first video of my grafting series. So what I'm going to be doing is potting up some rootstocks which I purchased from Blackmore Nursery. A few videos ago I put the video up which I unpackaged them, and you can see just how nice they are. So today I'm going to be potting them up into some pots, and I'm going to be carrying out the grafting probably about the first week of April. A great time to do that is when the sap is starting to rise. It's a little bit chilly at the moment, so I'm not going to be doing it now, but by that time it should be just about right in order to do this. So I've had good success with grafting in the past. I've got a playlist dedicated to this, so you can have a look through that if you want. And many of my long-term viewers have seen some of the apple trees that I've grafted. So what I'm going to do at the end of this video is take you around so you can see a few. And I've had about a 70 to 80% success rate with the grafts in which I've done. So I think that's quite a good success rate. So let's pot up these rootstocks and see how we get on. Okay, so I've got the rootstocks down here. I'm going to pick up the bucket with them in, so you can just about see them in here. So these are M27, okay, which are an extremely dwarfing rootstock. I'm doing this because of space, etc., and I don't really want to be grafting rather large trees. So take a look at that. So you can see how fibrous these lovely roots are on here. That's a little bit about the older stuff if you want to read it. So very, very happy indeed. So what I'm going to do is just take some scissors and just going to separate out these rootstocks. That's it, that's it, that's it, and that's it. So take a look at these. So these are quite nice actually. I mean, look at them, look. I mean, nothing wrong with that at all, is there? I'm really, really happy with that. And there's 10 of them here. So there you go. I plunged them into some compost in order to keep the roots nice and moist, and which is the thing you need to do. I'm trying to get this to stop. Oh dear. Okay, so this is the first pot I'm going to be potting them up into. So this, all I've got in here is some garden soil. It's quite stony, that'll help with drainage. And I'm simply going to just put some multi-purpose compost in here like this. And just put that down into there, and I'm going to now get a rootstock from here. There's 2 there we go. Look at that, look nice, isn't it? Looks like a broomstick, doesn't it? And I'm just going to simply proceed to put that in here. I'm going to turn the camera off now because I've got to get the roots nicely positioned. Right, so here we go. So the rootstock is going in here into this pot, and I'm simply just going to splay the roots out, if you will, a bit like how one would do when planting trees out in the garden. So I'll show you what I've done, and that's literally just going to go on like that, and I'm going to proceed to just simply pot up using multi-purpose compost just like this. So grafting, in my opinion, is a really great thing to do because you can propagate your own trees, and there's such a satisfaction in it. I mean, I love doing it, and I've learned a lot of what I've learned off of the Stephen Hayes Fruitwise channel. I suggest you check that one out, and he was kind enough to send me, along with many others a few years ago, scions for grafting. And you can propagate your own rootstocks really, really, you can propagate your own rootstocks as well, but you can propagate your own apple trees using scions. A scion is like a cut piece of the variety of which you want to propagate, and the time to cut that is during deep dormancy, so like January, February time, in order for grafting around early April. And the way that this works is you can actually graft more than one variety onto a rootstock, and you can also graft onto existing trees. So it's very much worth doing. And if you think about how much a mature apple tree can cost from, you know, a garden centre, the internet, wherever, you know, and you can just get a little scion like that in the rootstock and you can propagate your own trees. It's very good, and particularly with trees that require varieties that require cross-pollination, because you can graft more than one variety onto one tree, maybe even like 3 or 4, and so you can have all different apples or whatever on one tree. And this is particularly good if you're living in a place that you've only got you know, very limited space, but yet you want more than one variety. And of course with grafting you can also choose the rootstock that you graft onto. So if you want a full-size tree, you could go for like an MM106 in the case of apples, which is like a half standard, and I think it's M25 is like a full-size tree that I've done here. M27, M26, there's so many, you need to do your research on that, but I really recommend people get into grafting. Right, okay, so here is my finished article, if you will. Now I've got 10 of these to do. I'm going to put them into an assortment of pots. I'm also going to try some in some smaller pots to see how it goes. I'm not going to go through doing all of those on camera because you've seen one already, but yes, so what we're going to do now is just go outside and you can see some of the grafting I've done in previous years. Right, okay, so this is one graft I did. Now I use a form of cleft graft, so I'll be going through that when I make my grafting videos. So what I've grafted onto here is a variety called Winter King, okay, and also I believe Lord Lambourne. So the first year, so you can see the rootstock there, and I hope you can see where I made the cut. The scion is here, and the scion is the piece of wood from the tree, from the variety in which you want to propagate, and this is the rootstock. Then it took, and you can see all this growth up here that it's proceeded to make. And here as well, Lord Lambourne, if I remember correctly, here I made the graft. You can just about see where that was, and that can then go up to here. Now here, this is a shoot that's come off of the Winter King, okay? So if one wanted, they could make a slice here, and they could even graft another variety onto that, a third variety. So that's something I'm tempted to do, and I'm growing this up the fence here as a cordon, okay? So cordons are very good in order for space saving. So I've already got 2 varieties on this rootstock, so I may even put a third on that if I see fit when the time comes for me to do that sort of thing. Okay, now I hope it's not too unpleasant, the blowiness, because it's quite windy at the moment. But this is another tree, apple tree, that I grafted a few years ago, okay, once again with the scion from Stephen Hayes. Now make sure when you do graft, okay, you make a note somewhere, either on the tree or on a piece of paper somewhere, or whatever, of the variety that you've grafted, because I've lost this and now I've forgotten what it is, so I'll find out when it fruits. So you can see the rootstock here, and this is the graft. So I think that I grafted this onto quite a vigorous rootstock. It's probably a half standard if my suspicions are correct. So that's what I've done here. So you can really see just what a powerhouse this tree is, and it's put out a lot of growth. I'm really sort of happy with how it's done, and I could even, if I wanted, you know, take a graft from this tree. This is a piece of last year's growth. I could cut it, say, there, and I could even graft that further onto, you know, onto another rootstock to propagate this variety, whatever it may be. Now here it broke, so I fixed it with some flower arranging stroke grafting tape, okay? So I mean, it actually did survive, so I'm quite happy about that. Right, so you've seen a few little bits about specimens I've grafted. I've showed you the way in which I'm going to be going about it. Now, the slight difference is, whenever I've grafted before, what I've always done is purchase the rootstocks, and then I've grown them on for a year in a pot, or you could grow them on in the ground if you wanted, and then I've grafted on the new variety the following year, okay? But this year I'm not doing that. I'm going to graft in the first year. So I'm not going to be... Shit. Sorry about that. Don't swear on camera, Dan. It's a rude thing to do. What I've always done is tripped over and nearly fell out the door of the polytunnel. I've done that. But what I've always done is grown it on for 1 year, and then I've proceeded to graft the following year. But this year it's all happening in the same year. So there we go. So that's what I'm going to do with my grafting. If you like my work, please feel free to like, share and subscribe. And as always, you can check me out on Dan_Home Gardens on Instagram. I'm very passionate about grafting, so if there's any questions you've got, please feel free to post them below. See you next time.